Got it. Okay, perfect. Okay. So normally my interpersonal class is at 9:10 when in a regular semester. I'm not used to Com 8 being at the earlier class. So this class is the group class and I'm back on track. And this class does have a test coming up that's going to be in early March. So you do want to make sure that you're keeping up with the lectures that I'm sending out. Most of you are doing the assignments as they're being assigned. And like, for example, that storming, forming, norming, and performing is part of your chapters. So if you're doing those things as they come along, you're going to easily be able to answer questions as we get to the midterm. But you definitely don't want to just be focused on the assignments and not looking at the PowerPoints or the stuff that I'm sending out, because some of the midterm questions come from that. But when you do take the midterm, just like I was talking about earlier, it will be posted on a Thursday. You'll have from Thursday to Sunday to take it. It's not anything to, I know a lot of people have stress anxiety, especially when you're on the computer and you don't have the teacher there to ask questions. I will be available for questions, but also you have the time to kind of look at your notes, have your notes up if you want, and then you have Thursday to Sunday night to finish it. It's a multiple choice, true, false, short essay type format. The only thing you can't do is answer a question and then come back to that question. So you just want to make sure that you're prepared in advance. So if I look at this week's announcement, the one thing that I wanted everybody to know is that I know that the peer reviews got very confusing. So for example, if you were in a position where the peer reviews were assigned to you and you didn't see them in your to-do list or you didn't see them in the assignments, some students couldn't find them. And what I did for the entire class is to say, if you comment on 5 other speeches, then I would count that as your peer review. So as long as you did that, are the ones assigned to you, or both, you got full credit, and that's going to be graded later this week with your self-reflections. So that was a 2-part assignment where you self-reflected on how you did on your artifact speech. And then the second part was to make sure that you commented on 5 other speeches. That had to be turned in by Sunday night. And if you did that, great, you're going to see those points get logged in. The one thing I want to warn you about is if you just look at your grade right now, and let's say you didn't do well on an assignment or you missed the interview or whatever, it's good because it's weighted on what's been turned in. That can sometimes scare people. Remember, this class is 1,000 points. So, I mean, you could have not turned in the majority of things that were due already and still make a high B or a low A in the class. So don't look at it if you've got a grade that's a D or a C or whatever and think, I can't make an A in this class. That's not the case. But that doesn't mean that you can't or that you shouldn't be participating. So for example, if you continue to operate in that fashion, you're going to see it really dramatically affect your grade, because we're moving into assignments that are going to now be going into that 1,000 points even more. And so you don't want to be missing out on those points as they come available. So that means you should be looking at these assignments that need to be turned in. And all of you signed up for a group class. I know that some groups are really well gelled. They're working well together. One group, like the moment I sent out the assignment, already had their band picked out and was turning in their outline, and they're working well as a good oiled machine. Some groups really struggle to come up with their topic. They're struggling to get their group members to meet. But the bottom line is you signed up for a group class. And so if that person who's not participating in the group class is not meeting, is not, coordinating with you to record speeches or do assignments or whatever, you need to be journaling that, doing your part in the group, and that's going to be reflected in your grade. They're going to fail if they're not doing the work in the group because they signed up for a group class. So it's very important to make sure that you're keeping notes of who's doing what, how decisions are getting made. For example, in one group, there was a group member that just dropped the ball, and they were like, what if this person doesn't show up? Well, if you're doing the Beatles, let's just say that that's your band, and that person was supposed to talk about Paul McCartney. It's not like you can leave Paul McCartney out of the Beatles. So someone else is going to have to cover Paul McCartney. You may not do it for as long as the other band members are going to be talked about, because you're just kind of just making sure that that person is mentioned. But you do have to make sure that part is covered. I always love to use the Starbucks example. If someone doesn't show up that's supposed to be making the coffees and you're working the register, it doesn't mean that the coffees don't get made. You might have to help make them, and they may not be as good as the coffee maker person that always takes care of that, but you still have that group obligation to make sure that it's finished and that there is a product that you're able to give out. And so that's what you want to be thinking about for this week. So for example, I am in the middle of grading those self-reflections, the quotes, and the works cited. You should have practiced with your group last week. And if you did not, then you definitely should be practicing with them this week before you record and post your speech. And I'm going to be very lenient on what you turn in for this first presentation. As we go further in the semester, I'm going to expect group work that looks choreographed and coordinated and well polished. But this one, I'm just trying to get you to figure out, in a virtual world, how do we produce a speech together? And so, for example, I have had students that have gotten together before on campus, and they've recruited a volunteer, even in this pandemic, where they are recorded and they all have their mask on, they give their speech together, and they do it at the same time. You don't have to do that. That's very dramatic. It's taken a lot of time, scheduling, all those people, work and they can't do whatever. That's fine if you don't want to do it that way. But you should be talking about, do we want to get on Zoom at the same time? And then everybody in this gallery view are going to give their presentation in that 15 to 25 minutes. And then we just have to record it once, and then we submit it. Other people might say, hey, I'm kind of good at editing. If you just send me your videos, I'll put it together in a 15-minute video and then post it to the class. You can't edit the speech, but you can edit those videos to go together and then submit those. But there's lots of different ways that you can submit it. And I'm going to let you be creative and decide how you want to do it. The luxury of doing it through Zoom is, just like I'm sharing this Canvas screen, you could share your PowerPoint screen as a group, and someone could be clicking through the slides of whatever you guys are talking about. And then your little image is going to be down there giving your speech. But that group speech has to be recorded and uploaded by Sunday night of this week. And so it's going to take time to coordinate, when can we meet, or how are we doing this, and turning it in. And, I know a lot of people are anxious about it, but this is like your assignment. If you were in English class, you'd have a big essay paper that was due, and you'd be figuring out that on your own. You signed up for a group communication class. So that means you've got to figure out, how do we communicate with each other to make this happen? And again, if I'm the only member in the group that's doing work, then I'm journaling that. I'm making sure that I'm putting notes down that, I've been making decisions on what group we're going to pick, our band we're going to pick, what the outline is that we're turning in, the sources that we're using. I'm doing everything because nobody's answering. And here's, I emailed on this day and I'm not getting any response back. That's the kind of stuff that you need to be journaling if you're doing the extra work. And if you're not participating at the level that you should be right now, you definitely need to start, because that's going to be turned in. That journal entry is going to be turned in at the end of this group presentation. So remember that if you are having problems as a group, you should be reaching out to me. If you want me to meet with you and kind of brainstorm how to record your presentation, I can do that. I can even meet with you on Zoom and record it for you and then send you the video to upload, if you don't know how to do it yourself. But there's lots of different things that you can do. And if you're creative, I feel like with scheduling or whatever, you could get it out of the way early this week and get it done, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. But it shouldn't look like something where we haven't talked about it as a group. And that includes, so if I'm in your group and I haven't practiced the delivery of my speech, then you as a group member need to say, you know, hey, Robin, you're reading a whole lot and we need you to look at the camera. We need you to slow down some. You know, we want to turn in a really good presentation, and work with each other, coach each other. That's what a group class is all about. So these assignments should have been turned in by Sunday night. If they weren't, then you're individually going to get whatever grade you're getting. There's not a group grade for this. It's, did you turn in a quote and a works cited? That's either a group or an individual assignment that you're turning in. Did you show proof that your group practiced? If you didn't, then you're not going to get credit for that. And again, those assignments are so few in participation points, it's not going to kill you if you didn't do it, but you definitely want to be working on now the major presentation that's worth 100 points. And this presentation is split between the group grade and the individual grade. So what that means is you get 50 points for your group grade. And that means, what did your group turn in? I'm going to look at, how does it look? Does it follow that intro, the body, and the conclusion? If you say you're going to talk about Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, George Harrison, and John Lennon, do you talk about them in that order? Do you have a conclusion? So all of that stuff is what I'm going to look at to see, does the group do that? And then individually, just like your artifact speech, you should look at what your artifact speech feedback was from me. And if you got a good grade on your artifact speech, you're probably going to get a good individual grade for your group speech. So that means if you made a 45, then that you made a 90 or an A. And that means you're probably going to have a 45 for your individual grade if you deliver your speech in the same way, having a blueprint, making sure that you're, speaking to us and looking at the camera and not reading. So if you're thinking about that stuff in advance, you're probably going to be operating in the same fashion. If you correct the things that I said to do in your artifact speech, your grade's probably going to go up. Now, your group grade is going to influence what your individual grade is. So if you're working with your group to turn in the best product, you could easily make an A in this class if you're working with your group to make that happen. And again, that may mean that you're kind of leading and taking the lead in making sure that something's turned in that is worthy of what you feel like is A material. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there for right now, and then I'm going to see if there are any questions from the group. Anybody having problems? I'll stop the recording here.
So who's supposed to, like you're saying, our group needs to